Well, the Mets had their chance to impress our camp, and they blew it. And I bet a lot of people will be sad about that. The White Sox beat the Mets 6-2 in front of like half of the camp. I wasn't there. I haven't been to a Mets game this year, but you could just tell that it's not going to be a very good thing and that a lot of people, are going to be unhappy about it. And that's understandable. The Mets keep disappointing everyone this season. The AL East, though, is a very interesting division. It's sort of kind of like the NFC East of last year, in which case everyone might finish that division on a winning record. It'll be funny if everyone in the AL Central finishes on a losing record, but that's starting to trend a little bit less likely, and I think that the Minnesota Twins or Cleveland Guardians will win the division, probably on an 84-78 record. Which again, ain't a lot, but it is a winning record. But I don't know if we've ever had a case in which the entire division has all had a winning record, and that's possible for the AL East. However, at least one team has to be excluded, and realistically, with either the Astros or Rangers making it as a wild card, depending on who wins the division, two teams are going to be excluded. As of right now, it looks like the Blue Jays and are going to be in a wild card spot, but the Orioles and Rays, they're playing an important series. This will determine not only who has a lead in the AL East, but who is the best team in the entire American League, which will thus determine who gets a bye if this is the end of the season. Baltimore Orioles versus Tampa Bay Rays. Baltimore Orioles are 58-37, Rays are 16-39, and are playing in a 3-game series. Whoever wins 2 games will control the division. As of right now, the Orioles do have it, but that's only because they played 95 games and the Rays have played 99. So really, the Baltimore Orioles have a chance to not only make their first playoff appearance since 2016, but to potentially win the division for the first time since 2014. I'm not even joking when I tell you this, though, but there's a lot of potential in Baltimore this season. First of all, we have some stuff that we have to go over about the AL East. First of all, with the teams, it's a very interesting combination. When we look at the AL East, we're going to first look at the Tampa Bay Rays. Tampa Bay Rays started off 13-0. They had 13 straight wins before they eventually started to decline throughout the season. It wasn't as dramatic of a decline as the Pittsburgh Pirates, who at the end of April led the entire National League with a 20-9 record, and yet now doing worse than the Cubs, who we thought were doing bad. The Pirates will not be making their first playoff appearance since 2015 unless there's a dramatic improvement in the team. But you would have never have known that from the way they were playing back in April. However, they were then plagued with injuries. Injuries have happened in Tampa too, while Baltimore was able to maintain their amazing pace, and they might even get the home run genius of the LA Angels, who aren't in a playoff spot but could sneak their way into their first playoff appearance since 2014, which would make the Tigers the sole owners of the longest postseason drought in the MLB currently. And I keep forgetting who that guy's name is for the Angels. The Angels just swept the Yankees, by the way. So the Rays have made the playoffs the last 4 years. 2019, I think they won in a wild card round before losing in the divisional round to the Astros. 2020, they made it all the way up to the World Series before losing in 6 games to the Dodgers after getting the 1 seed. While they got the 1 seed again in 2021, they wound up losing in the divisional round to their rival, the Boston Red Sox. In 2022, they made it in as a wild card team. Again, they snuck in, and then they got swept by the Guardians in a wild card. So it's been rough in Tampa. They haven't won a World Series yet, but there has been a lot of good stuff coming out of them. And Tampa Bay will be making the playoffs. The question is, though, I thought it was going to be a near lock that they would have the 1 seed in the entire division in their hands. That might not be the case. They might have to settle in as a wild card team. They could then have a heartbreaking scenario as the Mets, 100-win season, yet they don't make it past the wild card round. That's what Mets fans had to experience in 2022. And it's possible that Tampa Bay Rays fans have to experience the same crushing defeat. Hopefully if that happens, they can at least make it past the wild card round. This is providing a lot of excitement for a team like Baltimore. Baltimore hasn't made the postseason since 2016, but 2022 was their first winning season since 2016, but their 83-79 record was simply not good enough to make the playoffs yet. And a lot of people thought that that was the only fire that the Orioles had, but the Orioles are just on that comeback tree. And we always thought that they could make it to the wild card, but can they clinch the division in the 1 seed? That's possible. Both the Orioles and the Rays at this point are on pace for a 99-63 record. A tie between the two teams is very possible. And obviously, if the Orioles can control the tiebreaker, it will make it a lot easier for them to steamroll ahead. That's why if the Mets could win just 1 game against Atlanta in their final series, that would have been, well, not exactly good, but it would have been okay for the Mets. Again, a sweep of Atlanta would mean that the Mets would control their own destiny. They would clinch the division, and 2 wins for the Mets, and they'd have to lose every single game while the Braves win every single game to get it. If the Mets could win just 1 game when they had a 5-3 lead, they would have controlled their own destiny. If they swept the Nationals, which they did, they'd be able to win the division. But because they lost that game, when the 2 teams tied, Atlanta had the tiebreaker, and it was the first year in which there was no game 163. That could have given it to another team. So, again, heartbreaking for the Mets, and then they get destroyed by the San Diego Padres. Now, Tampa could be in that position that the Mets were in, and they could lose, or they could win. Again, being in a wild card round isn't a certain defeat. Okay. Now, Baltimore made to the playoffs in 2016, but their biggest rival, the Blue Jays, well, one of their biggest rivals, the other biggest rival is the Yankees. The Blue Jays then just destroyed them in the wild card round in 2016. So now the question is, can Baltimore win the division? If they do, they're almost certainly going to clinch a bye. That will send them straight to the divisional round. They were last in the divisional round in 2014 when they swept the Tigers before making it to the Champion Series, where they got swept by the Kansas City Royals. Can the Orioles make it that far? It depends. If they're in that 1 seed position, they're going to be playing whoever wins the 4 or 5 seed battle. And I think the Orioles can move on in that case. If they're stuck in the 4 seed, even if they beat the 5-seeded team, which it's going to be a loss if they're playing the Yankees. But we're going to talk about them later. I feel like them then having to play the 1 seed of Tampa, I feel like that would be a little bit tough for them. But it's possible. We could very well see Baltimore action in the Champion Series, and maybe they can make their first World Series since 1983. Okay. Blue Jays, I think, can settle for the 6th seed. I think at this point, but I can't even say that. It's tense. I don't think we can reliably yet say Toronto will make the playoffs, the same way we could say for the Rays and the Orioles. But I think that the odds are very much in their favor of the Blue Jays to make the playoffs, and they control their own destiny right now. The Toronto Blue Jays made the postseason in 2016. They beat Baltimore in the wild card round before falling in the divisional round. Only problem is I forgot who they played. Ouch. Also, did they maybe make it to the Champions Series and lost to the Guardians? I don't think so, though. 2016 was a very weird year. 2020, they make it to the wild card round and get swept by the Tampa Bay Rays. And again, they barely made the playoffs, only because of the expanded version could they have made the playoffs. 2022, they make it back to the playoffs and get somehow swept by the Mariners in the wild card round. So if Toronto is, stuck in that position of being in that 6th seed, even against a team like the Twins, I still feel like the Twins can beat out Toronto. I think the Twins would beat out Toronto if it's in that position. Now, the two teams who aren't in wildcard spots but who have winning records are the Red Sox, who I think are 51-46, and the Yankees, who are 50-47. Red Sox have a bit more potential to their name than the Yankees. The Red Sox are the only team to finish with a losing record in the AL East in 2022. But in 2021, Red Sox made quite a run for it as a wild card team, beating the Yankees in the wild card game before taking on and defeating the 1 seed of Tampa in the divisional round, before falling to the Houston Astros in the Champions Series. They made it to the World Series and they won it all in 2018 with a powerhouse record. But the thing is that they've missed the playoffs a lot in recent years. They're not a consistently good team. So it's going to be tough. And the Yankees, I think they're going to be missing out on the first postseason since 2016. Crazy to think how weird of a year 2016 must have been in the playoffs with none of the teams that we're usually used to hearing in them. And I think 2023 could be that year in which the Yankees fail to make the playoffs. I mean, they're losing. They get swept by the Angels. They lost the series to the Colorado Rockies, and the Rockies suck. And they really just cannot play competent baseball. And I'm happy about that, because this is also the first time that I'm starting to have that despise for the Yankees, and they're losing. Maybe my hatred of them is making them lose. I hope it is. They lost the series against the Cubs too. The Yankees are really slipping. I think their last 10 games, they were 2-8. That's not good. And I think that we're going to see a bit of freshness in the sense of no Yankees in the playoffs for the first time since 2016. Now, not every year has been good for them. 2017, 2018, 2022 involved ALCS defeats to the Houston Astros. 2021 was a wild card defeat to the Red Sox. 2020 was a divisional round defeat to Tampa, and 2018 was a divisional round defeat to the Boston Red Sox. So not every year has been good for the Yankees, but they've always made the playoffs, and now I don't think they're going to be able to. Yankees, they're slipping. This could be the first year since 2014 in which neither New York team makes the postseason. And again, there's a lot of this since 2016, since 2014 kind of vibe. But it's true. We are in for an interesting postseason adventure. And I don't think that the Yankees are going to be part of it.